It has been quite some time since I've done an Operation Protect the White Boy video. I think the last one that I did was on Roman Polanski, and I think that was about over a month ago. But this story was sent to me, and I'm thinking it just happened. But no, this is a case from 2022, but the Operation Protect the White Boy is part that comes in is what just happened. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory. This man's name is Zackary Kent Mills, and this man is from Texas. And back in 2022, this guy kidnapped. Well, let me go a little bit into detail before I get to that point. This guy met up with a woman that he was speaking to on Bumble. Now, Bumble is one of those online dating apps. I never trust those apps because you just never know what kind of situation you can get yourself into. And ladies need to be very extra careful because you never know who's on the other side of that screen talking to you. And unfortunately, this woman did not know. But he ended up meeting up with her, and then it turned into him kidnapping her and then holding her against her will for nearly a week. Where in that time, he beat her and violated her for nearly a week. Now, this is back in 2022. Fast forward to now, his sentence is no jail time, and he was ordered to donate $50 to a women's shelter. That is it. Oh, and he's going to get probation. That's it. Keep this in mind, y'all. This man kidnapped this woman, held her hostage, and violated her and physically beat her for 5 days. Because I think that's how many days he said that he did it. And all he got was probation, no jail time, and had to donate a measly $50 to a women's shelter. According to Law and Crime, it says that he is ordered to do 2 years of probation. 2 years of probation and 80 hours of community service and donate $50 to a women's shelter. They say he cannot use drugs or alcohol and have absolutely no contact with the victim. But the thing of the matter is, he should be in jail. He should have no contact with anyone. They say he has no contact with the victim, but guess what? There's other potential victims out there. Now, like I just told y'all, I didn't even know this story existed. Now, if I didn't know this story existed, I'm sure there are other people out there, other women out there that probably don't know about this either, unless they plastered it all over the local airwaves in that area. But what's to stop him from, I don't know, going after somebody else? Now, of course, if he was smart, he's not going to violate his probation for 2 years. But what's to stop him from committing the act after his probation is done? Or if he's feeling real risky, what's to stop him from doing it while his probation is still ongoing? This right here is the ultimate Operation Protect the White Boy. Now, it goes on to say that he was originally charged with 1 count of a felony of aggravated kidnapping and ended up reaching a plea deal with the prosecutors, in which he agreed to plead guilty to a downgraded charge of a misdemeanor assault causing bodily injury. Again, let me remind you why we are here. This man met up with a woman on a dating app, kidnapped her and held her for 5 days, where he beat and violated her for 5 days. And all he got was the ultimate slap on the wrist. It's funny how you have a lot of people on that anti-black think tank known as X who will sit up there all day and claim that black people have like the ultimate privilege. And then you have stories like these floating around that they do not talk about. Keep in mind about what just recently happened in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where you had that white guy go up into that store and just start firing off, and ironically, most of the shots was directed at a black woman in which thankfully he was such a bad shot that he missed her with every shot that he took. So not only, according to them, do we have black privilege, but apparently they don't have it, and two, they're not anti-black. Okay, if they say so. It also goes on to say that he received a deferred adjudication of guilt, which could not only keep him out of prison, but also without a criminal record. So let's tack that on to the Operation Protect the White Boy. Not only is he not going to jail, but this won't even go on his record. So that means when he's done with his probation, this won't even show up on his record. He's basically having a whole clean record. Shoot, even on the probation, it sounds to me like he won't even have this on his record. This guy pretty much skated. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Brock Turner. Y'all remember Brock Turner a few years ago? The same thing basically happened with him. Now you don't even hear about Brock Turner anymore. That's a story that has gone far under the radar, and it actually gained national attention, which shocked me, considering this should have been on that same scale. They said Mills' deferred education is a special form of judge-ordered community service supervision, commonly known as probation, that permits a defendant to accept responsibility for a crime without an actual conviction being placed on the record. The key word for me there was special form of judge-ordered community service. That judge took it extra lenient on him. This is exactly like Brock Turner, because former Judge Aaron Persky was very lenient with Brock Turner as well. That's how he got all those reductions as far as a jail sentence, because he was supposed to do a number of years in prison for what he did, but he got those number of years reduced all the way down to 3 months. They kept reducing it. Every time you looked up, they kept reducing his sentence to the point where you thought he wasn't even going to go to jail at all. He might as well not have, considering they only reduced it down to 3 months. And I think it was like 3 summer months. By the time September rolled around, he was out back on the streets. Now again, nobody knows or hears about Brock Turner ever again. People could literally walk past this guy and have no idea of the crime in which he had committed all those years ago. They said that, and like I guessed before I even got to this point about him, if he successfully completes the 2 years, that means the charge against him will be dismissed. They said following his initial arrest, Mills' attorney said his client vehemently denied the allegations levied against him and insinuated that there was more to the story than what the victim relayed to the authorities, even though they had all the evidence. So now he's gone into the victim blaming, much like what Brock Turner's dad said. How are you going to punish my son for 20 minutes of pleasure? I didn't know a woman being violated while she was under the influence behind a dumpster was supposed to be considered pleasurable. That's what made me, that part right there probably irked me more than anything, is that his own dad said something like that. That's when I looked at the dad with the side eye, because it made me wonder, have you ever engaged in a practice like that before? Probably. His defense attorney named Quis Denuna said, "We have a very strong stance that a lot of these did not occur." He goes on to say, "I think that will show that there's more to it in their relationship. I think it shows that there's a history between them. I think that they've spent numerous occasions together amongst other people, whether it's friends, family, that can vouch for their relationship from what they've seen as a third-party witness that can vouch for their characters." What does that have to do with what he did? He still kidnapped this woman, held her against her will, and violated her for nearly an entire week. See what that's what the defense attorney just said for his attorney. What does him getting vouched for by other family members and other friends about their relationship, and this is the first time I heard the mention of a relationship, have to do with that? I don't consider them just being online like that just a relationship until they've actually met in person. And to my knowledge, that was the first time they met in person. They said, as previously reported, with law and crime deputies with the Harris County Constable's Office Precinct 4 on December 29th responded to an emergency call regarding a female patient who was the victim of an alleged assault at the Houston Methodist Spring Emergency Care. And all they had to do was that violation kit, and that'll determine right there that she was indeed violated. That's all it would have took. DNA matches, all of that. They said she met this guy online, started a romantic relationship, and they said it was not immediately clear from the document when the victim and Mills met in person for the first time. Then it goes on to say where they met. It was around Christmas Eve. They said when he denied the defendant, when the victim denied the defendant's sexual advances, he immediately began to physically assault her and would not let her leave. And when advised when he assaulted her, he would strike her with a closed fist. They said the defendant also bit her on her neck and face. What does he think he is, a vampire? He says when the defendant's hands got tired, he would grab a screwdriver and would strike her with the handle of the screwdriver, causing bodily injury. So not only was he hitting her with his hands, but he was using objects. She's fortunate all he did was hit her with the handle and not the other part, because then at that point he probably was going for the kill. But still, that's crazy. It says she goes on to say that during the duration of the time she was being held captive against her will, he refused to provide her with any food or water, so he was starving her too. This is absolutely insane. And it's crazy because, like I said, there are many more people out there just like him whose stories don't get told. And unfortunately, some of them don't get away, like the victim, because it goes on to say she was able to finally get out of the house when Mills left the residence to go to his father's home. And he probably just walked up in there like everything was okay. He probably sat up there and embellished and told a lie how great his the day he went on with the woman he met on Bumble was, and all kinds of other stuff. Keep this in mind, y'all. This guy is only 22. Now, I don't know if he was 22 when he committed this act or if he was slightly younger, because they're mentioning 22 as if he's 22 now. But if he did this back in 2022, then he was around 20 when he did it, or maybe 21 if he's turning 23 this year. They said that the victim gathered her clothes and ran about the door and contacted the first people who she came in contact with and told them about what had happened. And of course, that's what led to the police being called. It is she was able to positively identify this man as her attacker based on a Texas driver's license photo. She went to the emergency room and they said that she had severe bruising to both eyes, bite marks, and cuts to both her throat and her nose, and severe bruising on the majority of her body. All of this was going on for the span of a week. They said he was taken into custody the following day and booked to the Harris County Jail and was later released on a $50,000 bond. Now, that all happened back in 2022. So that means at 10% he was only paying $5,000. My guess is this guy probably comes from a very privileged family, just like Brock Turner. But you heard all of that, and after he did all of that, he was able to still walk away from it. Operation Protect the White Boy in the flesh. If anybody claims that they don't get this privilege or they want to act dumbfounded about it, direct them to this story right here, or the several other stories that I've talked about over the last 2 years, ever since I started covering these type of things. I have a whole playlist dedicated to it for the men and the women. That is absolutely insane. I feel bad for her, really, that has to be a nightmare to go through all of that, and this is what they come back with. But they try to say that the justice system is unfair to them, or that they're living in an anti-white society. Y'all keep listening to the likes of Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh and Tucker Carlson if you want to, but when you look at stories like this, can you really say you live in a quote-unquote anti-white society? Because I'm looking clearly on the screen at a white man. who did all of this, and his consequence was that of a person who probably stole a candy bar out of a store.